My boyfriend brought up the idea of swinging, and I'm not really into it, but I'm also scared of losing him. Hey, my name's Jenna, 21F, and I've been dating my boyfriend Ryan, 27M, for 3 years. We met at a party during my senior year, one my friend was hosting. Ever since then, we've been pretty much glued to each other. He can get a little jealous at times, but we genuinely love one another. 8 months ago, I moved in with him. It took a bit for both of us to adjust, but I think we've got the hang of living together now. I don't have a job at the moment since I'm in nursing school, and Ryan has a solid job, so I try my best to keep the apartment in order. I do wish he'd help out more, but I understand since I'm not contributing financially right now. Overall, our relationship is pretty solid. He likes to spoil me, which I really appreciate since I don't have much extra money to spend. He takes me out and buys me things, and it makes me feel loved. We also have a great sex life. It's pretty adventurous. We've tried lots of different things in the bedroom, and he's always had these fantasies, especially about role-playing. We've acted out cheating and partner-swapping scenarios, which I thought were just part of the fun. It didn't bother me much that I was usually playing someone else. It's all just pretend, right? But recently, something happened that threw me off. He said he missed dating. I get it, to some extent. There have been moments in the past few years where I've wondered about the wild things my friends are doing, but I chose not to because in a relationship, you prioritize your partner. You give up certain freedoms for that connection. So I let his comments slide, thinking he was just being a bit clueless. Then he brought up 2 of his coworkers who are in open relationships. I've met one of them, Olivia, who's in her mid-30s and married. Ryan's mentioned her here and there, but more like he was gossiping. He'd say stuff like, "You'll never guess what I saw today. Olivia kissed some guy who definitely wasn't her husband before coming into work. Can you even imagine?" He'd laugh it off, and I never thought he was seriously into that lifestyle. But then he met his new coworker, Lauren, 26F, and things started to change. He talks about her a lot, and it feels different. He talks about her like he's impressed, almost like he's got a crush. It's made me feel a little insecure. And then today, out of nowhere during lunch, he just asked, "What do you think about swinging?" I was stunned. I didn't know what to say, so I just mumbled something like, "I don't know, I've never really thought about it." He responded with, "Well, we should talk about it. Don't you ever think about other guys?" I admitted, "Sure, but not like real people, more like celebrities, Chris Evans, not Michael from my class." "Do you think about people we know?" He shrugged and said, "Not really. I mean, maybe sometimes, but it doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying we're young. Now's the time to have fun before we settle down. I see how happy Olivia and Lauren are in their relationships, and I wonder if we'd enjoy it too." That's when I got mad. "So this is about Lauren?" I asked. He got defensive. "No, she just makes good points. She says being in an open relationship has made her and her husband closer. They talk about everything now, and it's improved their intimacy." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's really personal stuff to share with someone you've only known for 4 months. "What else are you sharing with her?" He snapped back, "Nothing. I told her how great our relationship is, and she shared about hers. That's it. She just suggested we try it to make things even better. Why are you getting so defensive? You always say I should be open about my thoughts and feelings." I backed off a bit because he was right. I do want him to feel safe talking to me. I don't want to be that girlfriend who shuts him down. So I told him, "Okay, that's fair. We can talk more later, but I need a break right now. Can we pick this up tonight?" He agreed, and we hugged before going our separate ways for the rest of the day. That was a few hours ago, and now I'm sitting here, unsure of what to do. I'll listen to him tonight, but I can't shake this feeling that something's off. A part of me thinks he's going to suggest swinging with Lauren and her husband. I backed off a little because, after all, I'm always saying I want him to feel like he can talk to me about anything. I see all these TikToks about toxic behavior in relationships, and I refuse to be the kind of girlfriend who makes her boyfriend feel like he can't be open with me. So I told him, "Okay, that's fair. We can talk about it more later, but I just need some space for now. Let's revisit this tonight." He agreed, and we hugged before going our separate ways for the rest of the day. It's been a few hours since then, and I'm not really sure what to do or say. I guess I'll just listen to what he has to say, but I have this sinking feeling that he's going to suggest swinging with Lauren and her husband. And now, I, Jenna 21F, can't believe what went down last night. Even though I suddenly find myself single and without a place to stay, I actually feel incredible. As I type this, I'm sitting in a hotel room with Logan, 27M, a guy I just met on Thursday, yet it feels like we've been through so much together already. I'm heading back to my parents' house tomorrow, but tonight I just can't deal with explaining all of this to them. A few weeks ago, I shared about how Ryan, 27M, my now ex-boyfriend, tried to convince me to explore swinging. Eventually, I agreed to give it a shot, thinking it might just be a phase he needed to work through. But then he brought up Lauren, 26 again. Apparently she and her husband were interested in swinging too, and Ryan thought it would be a great idea for us to dive in together since everyone would be new to it. I was furious. I knew deep down something was off between him and Lauren. I confronted him, and of course he gaslit me, making me question myself. At the time, I didn't realize it, but looking back now, I see how ridiculous our relationship was. I mean, why was a 24-year-old guy even at a high school party in the first place? Despite my gut feelings, I fell for his lies again and agreed to meet Lauren and Logan for dinner. As the night went on, Logan asked for my number, wanting to talk without Ryan and Lauren around. We ended up texting a lot on Friday. See, Ryan had always painted this picture of how perfect Logan and Lauren's relationship was, how swinging had made them even closer. But Logan spilled the truth. Lauren had given him an ultimatum to open their marriage, and he almost left her after her first date. They weren't living the happy, carefree lifestyle Ryan had made it seem. At dinner, Logan and I couldn't help but notice how close Ryan and Lauren seemed. It made both of us uncomfortable. Afterward, we made a plan to go through their phones to see if they were cheating, and that this whole swinging thing was just an excuse to keep doing it. Lauren was smart. Logan couldn't find anything on her phone. Everything was strictly work. Ryan, on the other hand, wasn't as clever. It looked like they were using a messaging app since he had a few installed on his phone, and although there weren't any messages, that in itself raised a red flag. He did forget to delete a couple of texts, though. They weren't completely incriminating, but they were suspicious. Ryan, what did he say? Lauren, I told him we should just go and see what it's like. He agreed. Lauren, delete this and switch over. That was all I found. I asked Logan if anything like that was on Lauren's phone, and he said no. That's when I called him, we talked, and decided we needed to test them. It seemed clear that Ryan and Lauren just wanted a free pass to cheat together. Oddly enough, neither of us wanted to throw in the towel on our relationships just yet. So we decided to give it one last shot. We each asked if we could postpone the whole swinging idea for a while. We didn't want to go to Olivia's party the next night. Both of them told us we didn't have to do anything, but we said we'd go anyway. They both said almost the exact same thing. Olivia had made it sound like getting an invite was a big deal, and we'd be the only new couples there. Apparently, the other 10 had been doing house parties like this for a while. They hinted that if we didn't go, we might not get invited back if we decided we were into it later. So we agreed to go, hoping they'd choose us over each other. I was so anxious all Saturday that I thought I was going to be sick. I wasn't sure if I should eat beforehand, if there'd be food at the party, or if I should just skip eating altogether, and what was I even supposed to wear to something like this? Ryan didn't offer any suggestions. I decided on a little black dress that was probably a bit too short and had more cleavage than I'm usually comfortable with. Thankfully, it turned out to be the right choice. I wanted coffee but skipped it because my nerves were already on edge, so I just chugged water all day. That didn't help much either since I had to run to the bathroom every 10 minutes thanks to the nerves. We met Lauren and Logan outside of Olivia's place, which was honestly a really beautiful house. Logan and I exchanged glances like, all right, here we go. I hadn't met Olivia before, but she looked fantastic for 36 and having had 2 kids. You wouldn't have guessed it at all. When we walked in, it felt like a typical dinner party. There were some basic greetings, and then Olivia gave us a quick tour. They had a pretty impressive setup, lots of finger foods and plenty of drinks. I was feeling a little overwhelmed, trying hard not to stare at everyone. People were just chatting, nothing more. I don't know what I was expecting, but we arrived right at the start. There were supposed to be about a dozen couples tonight, and we were couple number 5, including the hosts. All the women were dressed similarly to me, which was reassuring. During the tour, Olivia explained some things, but I was too distracted to take it all in. I vaguely remember her mentioning that the rooms upstairs were set up for private play and something about changing the sheets. She introduced us to her husband, Brad, and then her boyfriend, Jacob. I probably should have paid more attention, but I was kind of zoned out. The only thing that stuck in my mind was something about thank God for those double doors, which got a laugh from everyone. I chuckled too, even though I had no idea what they were talking about. Apparently it had to do with some changes she made to her dining room for the party. I was pulled back to reality when another couple arrived. It didn't really matter, but it caught my attention, and then I saw Leland and Lauren talking. He looked at her and said, "Want to head upstairs?" She nodded, and the two of them made their way toward the stairs without hesitation. Logan and I just stood there, watching them disappear. Before they vanished completely, Leland glanced back at me saying, "Come on." Then, just like that, they were gone, no second thought, no checking in. I felt a mix of sadness and anger rising in me. I turned to Logan and said, "Well, I guess we've got our answer. Might as well make the most of it." There was no way I was following them upstairs, not after that. Olivia had mentioned there were places to play downstairs, so I figured I'd find my own space, far away from those two. Logan, trying to keep up, followed me as I stormed away from the stairs. I didn't even know where I was heading, but after a few turns, I found myself in this massive room with 2 king-size mattresses pushed together. There was also a big L-shaped sectional in one corner, a decent-sized couch across from it, and one of those cube shelves with collapsible bins lining the wall. Without a second thought, I walked in, dropped my clothes on the floor, and didn't bother looking back at Logan. He quickly started undressing too, gathering my clothes and stuffing them into one of the bins. As he fumbled with his belt, I snapped, "Oh my God, just get over here already." He got his pants off, but instead of coming to me, he ran back over to the shelf to put his pants in one of the cubes. I blurted, "What are you doing?" He answered, "Olivia said we're supposed to use the cubes for our clothes. I don't want to be rude." Completely stunned, I responded, "Rude to who? We're literally the only people in here." He just shrugged and said, "Others might come in." I couldn't help but think, who on earth would walk into a room where 2 people are clearly messing around, especially with the doors wide open? Normally, I'm not this bold, but after what Leland had pulled, I wasn't holding back. Logan and I were getting into it when I realized the mistake I'd made by picking this room. A super fit guy, maybe around 45, laid down naked just a few feet from me, and seconds later, a busty woman, probably his wife, climbed on top of him. I freaked out for a second, blurting, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, is this your room?" The guy just smiled, clearly amused, and said, "No need to apologize. This is the group room." Group room? I turned to Logan. "Did you know this was the group room?" He nodded. "Yeah, she mentioned it during the tour." I had a moment of panic, but quickly calmed down. After a second of mild embarrassment, I realized I didn't really care. As things heated up between Logan and me, I kept catching the older guy's eye. Strangely enough, I liked it. That's when he looked at his wife. They exchanged a glance, and he turned to us, asking, "You guys want to swap?" Without hesitation, I agreed. Logan didn't say a word. The older guy reached into his bag and pulled out a condom, handing one to Logan when he realized Logan had left his in his pants. Logan panicked for a second, saying, "Oh crap, I left mine in my pants." The older man chuckled and said, "Don't worry, I've got plenty. Here, take this one." And with that, everything went from wild to absolutely surreal. The older guy just casually said, "Don't worry, I've got plenty," and tossed Logan a condom from his stash. I started with the older guy, and his wife paired up with Logan. Honestly, it was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. When I walked into this house tonight, I'd only been with 3 men in my entire life, and within 15 to 20 minutes, I'd been with 2 more. At one point, another couple joined in on the bed, and I glanced around to realize that 2 more couples had also entered the room. The whole atmosphere was intoxicating, like nothing I'd ever imagined. Logan and I continued with the older couple for a while, but in the end, we finished things together. I couldn't believe what I'd just done. Strangely, a part of me felt proud of myself. But then I looked up, and there they were, Leland and Lauren, standing in the doorway, glaring at us, like we'd crossed some invisible line. That's when things really started to unravel. The car ride home was an absolute mess, filled with yelling from start to finish. Leland kept accusing me of going too far, saying he couldn't even stand to look at me. I completely lost it and called him out on all his crap. I told him I knew that this whole thing was just a scheme so he and Lauren could have an excuse to cheat. Of course, he denied it, but I brought up the text messages and their suspicious behavior. The way they'd gone upstairs without a second thought, it was all too obvious. He kept insisting we were supposed to follow them, but they never once checked on us, never asked if we were okay, and they didn't take things slowly like we had agreed. I finally asked him point blank, "Did you and Lauren have sex, even though we didn't follow you?" He hesitated and then admitted yes. I lost it. "So you didn't really need me there, did you?" I shouted. He started backtracking, saying it wasn't supposed to go that way, that we were all supposed to be paying attention to each other, and that Logan and I should have been focusing on them since they were the ones who brought this whole idea up in the first place. I was so furious that I had a moment of clarity. Why was I even with this guy? He was nothing but a walking red flag. That's when I ended it. I didn't say another word. I packed a bag, left, and didn't look back. As I walked out of the apartment, I checked my phone and saw that Logan had texted me to see if I was okay. Turns out he was going through a similar argument with Lauren. I told him what had happened, and he said he'd gotten himself a hotel room. I told him I was planning to head to my parents' house, though I wasn't exactly eager to explain everything to them. He offered to let me come to his hotel, and I agreed without a second thought. Now, I'm sitting here reflecting on everything that's happened. It's clear to me that Leland won't be part of my future, and honestly, I'm not sure what comes next. But for the first time in a while, I feel more confident in myself than I ever have before. Now, on to the next story. Both my ex-husband and my most recent serious boyfriend cut me off without a word. Now, as I try to advance in my career, they're standing in the way of my progress. I, Lauren 29F, have a serious problem. I currently work for a fairly large company, but it's going through a rough patch, and layoffs are looming. I may be one of the ones on the chopping block. So I've been proactive, applying for positions at other large companies in the greater Cleveland area. I have interviews lined up with 2 of them, but they're lateral moves. Just more of what I'm already doing. The third company I've applied to, though, has an assistant director of marketing position open. It would be a promotion, and I know I'm qualified for it. The issue? I haven't heard back about an interview yet, and I think there might be a darker reason behind it. Both my ex-husband Logan, 30M, and my ex-boyfriend Ryan, 30M, work there. To make things even more complicated, they apparently work together on the same team. This is shocking, considering how much they hated each other at one point, and now I have this sneaking suspicion that they're the reason I haven't been called in for an interview. Both of them blame me for the downfall of our relationships, but that's far from the truth. Logan and I were together for 4 years, and for most of that time, things were great. We had clear roles in our relationship that worked for us. We both worked, and while Logan handled a lot of the housework, I made sure everything else was organized, planned, and taken care of. Things started going south when we decided to open up our relationship. We believed it would improve our communication and intimacy. I had a coworker who had done it, and she swore it saved her marriage. Logan and I talked at length, set clear boundaries, and agreed to give it a shot. I even created dating profiles for us, and that's when it all started. I was the first one to get a date. I went out, came home a bit later than expected, and Logan completely lost it. He threatened to divorce me. I was shocked because we had agreed to this, had set boundaries, and he still reacted so aggressively. I told him we could slow things down, maybe stop altogether, but after a lot of back and forth, we decided to try swinging instead, thinking it would be easier for him. Around the same time, I had a coworker named Ryan, my later live-in boyfriend, who was into swinging with his girlfriend Jenna. We made plans to swap partners at a mutual friend's lifestyle party. It seemed perfect. Everyone was on the same page, and the vibe was good. At the party, Ryan and I wanted to go to a private room with Logan and Jenna to explore swapping. We asked them to join us, and it was the plan from the beginning. But when Ryan and I got to the private rooms, we realized Logan and Jenna hadn't followed us. Confused, we went looking for them, and what we found was jaw-dropping. Logan and Jenna had joined a full-blown orgy and were sleeping with multiple people. They were so engrossed in what they were doing, they didn't even notice us standing there. The worst part? Logan broke our number one rule and didn't use protection with Jenna. He even finished inside her. After the party, I tried to explain how hurt I was. He had broken our rules and completely abandoned the plan we had agreed on. But Logan got furious, left our apartment, and stayed in a hotel for a few days. I later found out he had invited Jenna to stay with him, and they spent those days together. Shortly after, he served me divorce papers and blocked me on everything. I never saw him one-on-one again after that. Ryan and I turned to each other for comfort, and it grew into a relationship. Eventually, we moved in together. Like before, we decided to open up our relationship and carefully discussed the boundaries. I started dating again, but Ryan didn't seem to put much effort into it. Instead, he only wanted to sleep with me after I had been with someone else. To make him happy, I went out more often. I thought things were going well until one day I came home from an overnight trip to find Ryan had moved out. He took all his things, quit our job, and completely ghosted me. Now, here I am, trying to get a job at the very place where both Logan and Ryan work, and it's the only company that hasn't called me for an interview. Given my qualifications, it's hard for me to believe that they wouldn't at least interview me unless someone is deliberately trying to prevent it. Honestly, I'm not surprised, considering both Logan and Ryan ghosted me after years of being together, but I had hoped enough time had passed that they would move on. I would hate for this to get ugly, but I'm considering taking action if they are indeed blackballing me. Hopefully it doesn't come to that and they see the error of their ways and recommend me for the job.